I'm PJ Randhawa, the consumer investigative reporter at NBC Chicago. We're taking a closer look into health insurance denials. Now, just because a claim is denied doesn't mean you can't get your insurance company to pay for it. We're looking into some creative ways people have gotten their health insurance denials reversed and gotten access to the care they believe they need. It seems like everyone has their own unique story about something like this happening to them, and it turns out this experience is not that unique. Now, data shows, at least since 2021, the number of health insurance claims denied has actually increased. Now, we recently heard from Brandon. Last year, his son suffered a traumatic brain injury while playing basketball, but his insurance company denied his claims for his son's rehab stay, so Brandon got creative. He went to his union's health trust, which overrode his insurance company's denials. It saved him thousands of dollars. Then there's Jessica. She was just 35 years old when she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. When Jessica's insurance company denied her treatment for a combination of immunotherapy and chemotherapy, she worried their decision could shorten her life. So she posted a desperate plea on social media, LinkedIn and TikTok, and that's where she learned that her company's HR department could be an ally. Now, her HR department was able to get the insurance company to reverse its decision within 24 hours, and she ended up getting her treatment. But the majority of Americans don't or can't go through the same lengths that Jessica and Brandon went through to get their denied health insurance claims approved. Now, there's been a new analysis of ACA marketplace plans by the Kaiser Family Foundation, and that found that less than 1% of denied insurance claims were appealed in 2023. Now, here are some of the top reasons that claims are denied, according to an analysis by Value Penguin. 48% of the time, it was because the patient didn't have prior authorization before a medical procedure. Other top reasons include a doctor was not covered by the plan, billing code issues, a billing deadline was missed, patient or claim information was incorrect, not enough staff to keep up, certain drug coverage excluded, or a policy change. Now, we were curious about which major health insurance companies had the highest denial rates. Here's what that same analysis by Value Penguin told us. And keep in mind, these are plans that are found on the marketplace, not employer-sponsored, and not part of Medicare or Medicaid. Topping the list was United Healthcare with a 33% denial rate. Molina Healthcare had 26%, Anthem at 23%, Medica also at 23%, Aetna had a 22% denial rate, Cigna 21%, and CareSource at 21% as well. Finally, Blue Cross Blue Shield rounded out the list at a 20% denial rate. So on the flip side, we also wanted to look at the health insurance companies that had the lowest denial rates, and those include Avera Health Plans with just a 1% denial rate. Pacific Source Health Plans, a nonprofit, has a 2% denial rate. Providence Health Plans denies just 4% of claims, while Sanford Health is at 5% and Kaiser Permanente is at 6%. Adria Goldman-Gross is the founder of MedWise, an advocacy group that helps patients fight back against denied claims.
If you have a problem with the bill, the first thing you really should do is call the medical provider, call your insurance company, see why they're not paying it.
Goldman-Gross says if you don't have any luck with the insurance appeals process, try one of the strategies that Brandon or Jessica used. Asking your union or company HR department to appeal on your behalf. And if that doesn't work, she says, go to the state.
The departments are the Department of Insurance, the Attorney General, the Consumer Affairs. And let me tell you, don't just write to one. I would write to all of them and tell them what's going on and see what they can do.
You can also request an external review from the Illinois Department of Insurance. But that only works if your insurance claim denial involved medical judgment, experimental treatment, or a pre-existing condition. You can also request a review if your coverage was rescinded, in other words, approved and then for some reason denied or clawed back, as long as the reason for that was not non-payment of premiums. Now, one important thing to note here, you can only request the state review your denied insurance claim after you've exhausted the appeals process through your insurance company. And then you must file the external review request within 4 months of your insurance company making all their final decisions. But how likely is it that the Department of Insurance can even help you? Well, NBC5 Response looked into the data. According to the department's Consumer Health Annual Report, in 2023, the latest year data was available, the department was able to overturn about 41% of the healthcare denials it reviewed. But there's a caveat here. About 75% of all the requests for review the department received in the last few years have been rejected because they weren't eligible for review. That can happen if the consumer hasn't exhausted all internal appeals with their insurance company first. Now, if you still don't get anywhere and you have medical bills to pay, there's one other avenue you should try. Call your medical provider's billing department and ask to negotiate a lower fee. Now, there's a trick to this.
Even when this law was passed about the surprise bill law, what happened is they looked at the Medicare rates, and normally an insurance company never pays out more than 160% of whatever that Medicare rate is.
Look up the Medicare rate for whatever procedure you might have had. Then calculate about 160% of what that cost is. Experts say that's the offer you should make to pay your provider. So here's an example. Medicare.gov shows Medicare would pay $1,300 for a cataract removal surgery. So multiply $1,300 by 160%. That's a total of around $2,100. Now that's how much you should offer to pay your provider if you're negotiating down a bill. Now, this next part might sound a little counterintuitive, but our experts say to really emphasize the worst case scenario about your healthcare needs when you're talking to your insurance company about a denial, either by letter or by phone.
I mean, these are the type of things that should be in those letters. I had a case one time where someone needed surgery, and it's usually used only for epilepsy, but she had depression. And when we were able to prove that every other step that she took, to try and control this, when we finally said to them, hey, look, she was even thinking of committing suicide, they overturned the case.
Now here's another tip. If your treatment involves a really expensive drug, you might have success by going directly to the drug company. Have you had any luck going directly to the drug companies?
There are times that people can't afford their medication. And I call the drug companies, and I have to be honest, I would say, as long as they're manufactured in the United States, because some of our medication is manufactured overseas, and you really can't talk to anybody, as long as it's manufactured in the US, a lot of times they help people, especially when you can't afford it.
And if you have trouble advocating for yourself, consider talking to an elected official.
But if you want to get a rush on it and you're really concerned, I am telling you, I would go to my congressperson. Because if they're hemming and hawing and you're not getting anywhere, I would have I would call the congressperson and say, hey, look, I need help. Can you please call the departments for me and help me?
And you've seen success with this?
Yes.
Now you can also talk to a medical billing advocate like Adria, but that usually comes with a fee.
Even when people call me, I always give free advice, and I say to them, this is what I would do, and if you need help, I'm here.
Now, whether you're advocating for yourself or a loved one, Adria says the bottom line is never give up.
You have an insurance policy, you pay for it, or they might even give you pre-authorization before you went in for the procedure, and now they're not covering you. You have to fight for your rights and never give up. Stockholders should not be deciding on our lives, of whether or not we should be on a medication, no matter, like some of these are so expensive, or whether or not you should have a procedure done.
Now, NBC5 Responds reached out to all the health insurance companies we mentioned in our story. United Healthcare told us in part, the assertion that United Healthcare denies 32% of claims is out of context and misleading. It does not reflect UHC's overall claims denial rate as stated above. The figures you are asking about are based on data UHC provided to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services for individual and family plans in 2022, representing less than 2% of United Healthcare's total claims. It is important to note there is a lack of standardization in the industry regarding claim protocols. Cigna tells us in part the most frequent cause of avoidable prior authorization denials is submission errors, including incomplete information submitted by the physician's office. When we do not receive sufficient information, we attempt to obtain the missing information from the requesting physician. If our attempts are not successful, regulatory requirements require us to issue a denial. So now we want to hear from you. If you have found an unconventional way to get your medical bills paid or a denied claim reversed, let us know. Drop it in the comments. And if you have a consumer complaint, reach out to us directly. The website is nbcchicago.com/consumer. Thanks for checking in. I'm PJ Randhawa.